Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm gonna do some theory crafting for tier 2 gear once it becomes available in the global Thor and Liberty. And the build that I'm using right now is Maxroll. However, keep in mind, some of the stat explanation is also kind of a bit off. Like for instance, here it shows shield damage reduction 40%, which actually doesn't exist as stat line in the game, as you can see. Here we don't see anything like that. We actually have a flat stat of damage reduction, but we don't see anything like shield damage reduction percentage. So with this in mind, think about it that it's not exactly accurate, so things will change a little bit, but at least you're gonna get some idea of what you can get and how you can build your character. Also, as you can see, the actual combat power is also not correct. 4400, it's almost 4400 here. Right now you're supposed to get like almost 4500 with everything completely maxed out. And personally, I am 4200, as you can see, a bit above 4200, and I still don't have a couple of the traits maxed out. For instance, this one is buff duration. Here you got debuff duration. So those things, plus on top of that, you can see for my build that not every skill that I have on is completely maxed out. I just have still some that are about level 4. Same for the passives. Also my masteries that also gives you. So you got the idea. Basically, this max combat power is not accurate. It's supposed to be way higher with full tier 2. And also keep in mind, the tier 2 gets upgraded to level plus 12 instead of plus 9 like the current one. So that alone should give you way more combat power. But that's irrelevant anyway. We're not going to talk too much about that. So just to give you a perspective of what I managed to build, I'm focusing on my tank build. That's what I'm playing anyway. So these are the stats. Obviously, this can be fluctuating a little bit, but generally speaking, easily you can reach 70 strength. And then you can actually invest a lot in other things as well. The defense generally is not much higher because the only way you get extra defense is coming from your gear anyway. But other things, for instance, endurance goes way higher than what we used to have. Then on top of everything, we also managed to get some heavy attack evasion here. The damage reduction is actually not too high on this build, so that can go a bit higher. The hit chance seems to be ridiculous at this point. So I was on my current build, I'm around 900. At best case scenario, I got to about 1000. This easily gets to 1500 because a lot of this comes from passives based on max HP, and we're gonna get to the gear in just a second. The crit chance for this build obviously is not much higher, and then you see the heavy attack chance also not much higher, kind of like similar to what we already have anyway. But the big crazy stuff about this build goes all the way down here. The HP, that's the main priority for this build, is over 38,000, which is absurd. That's incredible in my opinion. And we also have some crowd control resistance because of fortitude. But anyway, the main thing we get with tier 2 is not only that we get better items, but also they get upgraded to plus 12. Plus there's another form of progression called trait resonance. I don't know how it works, but basically you just have like additional stat line here, and could be anything. I'm just stacking up HP just to show you how much you can get. Runes kind of remain the same, nothing special about that. It's basically just the resonance and the 12 levels on top of everything. Let's just quickly look at some of the items. This one, for instance, Blade of Fiendish Fortitude. So generally speaking, they give you way higher base stats on top of much higher additional stats as well. And the passives also look pretty decent as well. Most of the weapons give you 3 stats like almost all the time, as you can see. Every single one has 3 stats. With the exception of these particular weapons. Black Anvil weapons are supposed to be for farming. The stats look okay, but they're not that good anyway. They just give you a lot of extra Solent and Mastery. So that's a bit questionable whether we want to play with that. But anyway, the main stuff, just the base damage alone, because of the upgrades and everything, are actually stronger than Archbolt's weapons right now. The passive of this one is additional healing during counter barrier. This one gives you basically an AoE chain hook, which is really cool. And there's new things that you can see on the stats, not just the higher stats in general, but for instance, this one gives you skill damage boost. So I don't know if all this is absolutely correct based on this website. There might be some things that are a bit off, but at least we get the idea of how this would go. And we see a lot of interesting things related to sword skills that get upgraded with the new sword and shield stuff. So you might see more people trying to experiment and use a bit more sword skills when they use that combination, because some of these stacks get really buffed. So here with greatsword, things are even more interesting. Now this one, Immortal Titanic Quake Blade. Gaia Crush attacks the same location 4 times instead of moving forward. Last attack's range is increased by 33% and damage by 30%. I don't know what to think about that. They already buffed Gaia Crush a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what this moving forward means. Once you actually upgrade to the Ice Gaia Crush, not sure what to think about that, but that looks pretty cool on its own. Now, this is really interesting. I really love this one. Celestial Cyclone Warblade. Blazing Tornado, that's the passive. So now Devastating Tornado attack speed is increased by 100%. Movement speed is increased by 20% for the skill duration. Attacks apply serial firebomb burning effect. So I have no idea what this burning effect is, but just the other things alone, the attack speed and the movement speed, looks pretty awesome. Now the stat line on the bottom doesn't look that great. You got Perception, which is nice, but you get Wisdom as well. So I guess mana related issues and some stun chance. So generally that's not bad, but the passive is actually amazing in my opinion. Just for AoE farming, of course. Then you have Kiwul Naros Frenzy Sword. Now Valiant Brow and Crew Smite damage is increased by 50% and the cooldown is decreased by 15%. Basically that's what it means. And also look at the stats. The stats are crazy, man. Even the Archboss weapon right now doesn't give you that much. So you get 12 strength, 9 dexterity and 8 wisdom all together. And this is really awesome. The next one is Battlefield Warriors Broadsword, which doesn't actually give you any passive, but it looks okay, just as base stats. As you can see, you got some strength, a lot of stun chance, and decent max HP. Again, the Black Anvil ones, that doesn't give you a lot of good stuff. And these ones, I think one of these is Archboss weapon, but the other one, this one seems to be just a regular weapon, maybe field boss weapon. On using Da Vinci's Courage, health regen increased by 350%. And duration increased by 1.5 seconds. So basically just makes you regenerate a lot of HP during Da Vinci. And the base stat is actually pretty cool. You got 12 strength, 1440 HP and 8% cooldown speed. And this is probably the Archboss weapon. It's going to be really difficult to get this anyway, but of course it looks pretty cool. When you think about it, you get a lot of stats, 12 strength, 10 perception and 160 hit chance. And also the damage alone, the flat damage is incredible. I think it's the highest one, as you can see. Yeah, most of them are kind of like balanced to about 148 to 273. Again, we don't know if that's absolutely accurate, but you get the idea. Just this one is actually a bit closer, 162 to 301. But most of them are in this range. However, the Archboss one is 170 to 316. That's a lot of damage. And the passive is whenever you use ultimate skill, you create a 3 meter wide poison cloud for 4 seconds. That's like AoE. Enemies inside the cloud will take damage over time equal to 220% of base damage every half a second, and melee range and magic evasion are reduced by 300. Damage is amplified by 100% against monsters. So basically for 4 seconds you're gonna do 8 attacks for 120% of base damage, and you're gonna reduce evasion as well. So that's great for PvP, but also for PvE because the damage is just amplified for monsters. So that looks awesome. The more interesting things for me are actually the armor that you can get, and I'm specifically talking about the sets. I think they kind of made a major change with the set bonuses. On tier 1, you see a lot of people mix 2 sets because basically the first effect that applies for 2 items is usually very decent, very nice. And the second one is like not that good. So you see a lot of people just having 2 pieces of 2 different sets to get the first bonus, and that's optimal. But now I think they changed that a lot, because if you just look at these new sets that we're gonna get, the second effect, the second bonus effect is actually amazing. So this one to me looks like a very decent tank set. You can of course mix around. Once again, you just need 4 pieces out of 5. So the 1 piece is kind of a free and you can put whenever you want. So this one is called Rat Knight set. You're gonna get 2000 HP, which is great for tanks in general or any greatsword user. And you're also gonna get for 4 pieces melee heavy attack chance based on your maximum HP. And as a tank, you easily get the maximum benefit from this one because it's only capped at 20,000 HP, but you're gonna get 240 heavy attack chance. So that's gonna be amazing. But you also have other things as well. So this one is Holy Ghost Fighter set. You get buff duration and you're gonna get damage reduction and endurance, generally speaking. So instead of more HP, just become tankier with less HP, kind of like that. Then you have this one is Palace Guard. So this one is also like more related to PvP tank set because these stats are not going to be that beneficial in PvE. I mean, in PvE, we're already pretty overpowered. And even if they release much more difficult content, once you get to this point, you'll be overpowered for tier 2 as well. That's what I believe. So this set is actually giving you shield block chance 8%, and you're gonna get 2% that stacks 5 times. So you're gonna get potentially up to 10%. So that is 18% additional shield block chance. That's how I see it. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong the way I read it, but that looks pretty cool. Considering that the base shield block chance on these weapons kind of starts from around 30%. So most of the new swords we're gonna get will have higher block chance than any of the swords we have right now. The highest one that we have on tier 1, if you can check right here, as far as I remember, is Nirma, which is 27% block chance. This is the highest one you get. And as you can see, the lowest one here is 24, basically, the black arrow, but this is the weakest one anyway. And this one is 32. Actually, that's probably Archboss weapon anyway. So as you can see, that's a lot of shield block chance anyway. So the next set is Skilled Veteran. And this is more of a, again, I'm looking at kind of like support builds now, because you're going to see a lot of these set effects where, for instance, this one increases endurance, but not just for you, but also for party members. As you can see, that's pretty cool. And then you also increases damage reduction, again, for you and party members. So you're going to see a lot of these kind of sets where they share buffs among party members. And I believe this is going to be very related to the fact that they are planning to release 12-man raids. So this is probably going to be the hardest content you can think of. And I guess a lot of people will probably need to put on some sort of sets that actually share buffs. And you can actually look, let's just check the other type of sets, like the cloud one. This is for mage classes, obviously. DPS in general, that doesn't give you anything right now. So the first one you see is Sacred Vanquisher. So that increases your skill damage over time by 20%. And then on 4-piece, you get skill damage resistance at the same time. So that's for any class that actually does damage over time. So I would assume, I haven't played with anything like that, but that's probably fire damage over time or something. But I'm not sure anyway. Then we have the Elder set, which is skill damage over time 4%, and every time you weaken a target, increases by 12%. So I'm not quite sure what that means exactly. I mean, it looks a bit weird. Stacks up to 3 times, so that's like 36% additional skill damage over time. And also you get skill heal by 30%. So that's kind of like DPS and heal at the same time. Then we have the Oracle Priest set. Again, that's one of these party support type of sets. Increases all defense by 200 for you and party members, and also healing received is increased by 10% for the whole party as well. So I only see these 3 sets. And you have World 3 set, which increases your max mana by 1500 and mana regen by 50, and then increases your cooldown speed by 1% per 1000 of your mana. And also cooldown speed, and the limit is 20%. And that's going to be like DPS build, because at the same time, you can see this, the set gives you heavy attack chance. This item particularly. I don't know how you're gonna reach that max mana, because 20%, 1% per 1000 mana, that means you need 20,000 mana to reach the maximum benefit of this. Obviously, that's very powerful. 20% cooldown speed is a lot. I don't know how you can reach 20,000 mana, and who is even gonna stack that much? I'm not quite sure how this would work, but it does look interesting anyway. And then we're at the letter sets. So this one, Abyss Slayer. Those are probably purely for DPS classes. Increase your max damage by 20, critical hit chance by 100, and whenever you do a critical hit, it's basically like recovering HP based on 5% of the damage dealt. So this kind of feels like lifesteal. Basically, it's lifesteal. And I don't know how to think about that. It feels a bit broken just from the way it seems, because you're gonna constantly heal for 5% like all the time. This is basically lifesteal. And I know 5% is not too much, but generally in PvE, you're gonna be doing a lot of damage. So these classes that use that kind of build may not have that much HP, but they will recover a lot of HP all the time. So that looks pretty cool. The next set is Wing Gale, which is increasing your critical hit chance by 200, which is a lot, and also increases critical damage by 15% and additional critical damage by 1% per 1 meter away from the target. And the maximum is 40%. So right now, the longest distance you can get is with the longbow. I think it goes to about 20 meters, but you can increase the range with other items. 40 meters still look pretty far away. I'd assume even if you can stack more range on tier 2, I guess you can get to 30 meters, but 40 looks pretty broken in general. Then the next one is Down Mist set. That just gives you ranged in magic evasion, pretty decent, 250 for both of them, and you also want to get 35 bonus damage. So that again is kind of a DPS oriented class. Next one is Forgotten Assassin, and that's again type of set that buffs your entire party. So this gives you all evasion, and also it gives you critical hit chance, which is pretty awesome. The next one is Admiral set. This one is debuff duration minus 3% for you and party members, and also attack speed for you and party members. So that's kind of a support type. The next one is Nether Overwatcher. Critical damage increased by 15%. If there are no enemies within 5 meters, additional 10%, and movement speed 15%. Then you have Imperial Tracker set. Critical damage increased by 1%. So I don't know, this looks a bit weird. Increased by 1%, and then on each melee critical hit, it increased 15% up to 10 stacks. So, and then the second effect is buff duration. But this looks a bit weird because the first is almost insignificantly ridiculous, 1% critical damage. Then the second part of the effect is 15% that stacks up to 10 times, which is 150. So why do we even have the first 1%? Like, I think this is a bit not written down properly, but we'll see. So that's with the sets. You can look at the cloaks. They also look pretty amazing. Like, some of these stats are just ridiculous. You can see a lot of things like skill damage boost that we haven't seen before. You also have things like heavy attack chance from the cape, which we haven't seen before as well. So yeah, that looks pretty awesome. Here with the necklace, we see very often, most of them, if not all of them, give you 4 stat lines, as you can see. I actually don't see, oh, this is the only one that I see. It has 3 stat lines. All of them except this one give you 4 stats. So that's why you see that your stats are gonna go all through the roof. As you can see, we easily got like 80 strength. Like, this is way too much, right? I'm just showing you just so you get the idea. Then as the bracelet, once again, I see most of them give you 4 stat lines, and again you get heavy attack chance, and the base stats are also much higher, like total of 10 stat points, 6 wisdom and 4 perception. This one gives you 5 dexterity, 5 wisdom, so most of them give you at least 10 points altogether, which is pretty awesome. Pretty much the same thing for rings. A lot of them give you 4 stats. And now you see again heavy attack chance added to the rings as well, which is really cool. And also some of these rings also give you damage reduction. So if you're that kind of a class, maybe like me, you want to maximize damage reduction, you can look at some of these rings and kind of play around with these builds as well. So now you can kind of get some sort of idea where we're going to be with all these new items and what you can do. I'm going to drop a link to this builder. You can just experiment and see what you can make. This may not be 100% accurate. And also there are other builders as well, but they seem to be missing the passives on top of that. Later, when it's updated, obviously, once they release the actual gear, it's going to be Questlog GG, where you can actually... Right now, this is the one I'm using, actually. It's right here. This seems to be the most accurate one at the moment. They just don't have tier 2 items yet. So I assume this is basically keeping it to the global version. So once we get tier 2 in the global version, they'll probably be updated in Questlog GG. You'll be able to get a more accurate representation of your build. And also another thing to keep in mind is that if we check right here, the skill editor, it still uses the auto mastery system, which is going to be completely irrelevant. And I haven't found many places where they actually show you how it looks, how the new one looks like. So it's kind of a mystery still. Maybe you can find something, but it's not going to be that much information about it. So that's wrong right there. Obviously, you're going to have a different mastery system. And I don't know if they're going to do something about the skills. I guess they're okay where they are, but some of those things might get changed a little bit as well. If not the actual progression, maybe just some rebalancing. So obviously these things could affect your build as well. But yeah, that's about it. I don't think there's going to be anything new about the runes. So you can just basically use the same stuff that you use right now. So that's going to be for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, hit the like and subscribe button. That helps my channel a lot. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more videos.